Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Rosa's Randoms, and today we're going to be doing the final review of The Woman in Coach D by Sarah A. Denzil, and this is chapters 70 through 83. So let's get into it. So back at home, we have Jenny wondering if Hannah actually just seduced Harry so that she could spy on her and get into contact with her. Because if you recall in the last video, Jenny believes that she saw Hannah at the Freedom Cult compound. We then are taken back 16 years to where we see that Jenny and Susie used to take tape recordings of themselves confessing their deepest, darkest secrets. And you know, they used to hide these recordings underneath Susie's bed. And in these recordings, it's actually revealed how much Susie actually disliked Max. And Jenny realizes throughout these recordings that Susie was actually jealous of Max because of how much time Max had been taking up with Jenny from Susie. So Susie just didn't like this, and so Jenny kind of wonders in present day if it was actually more than that from Susie. She then gets a call from Liam, the detective, who she also had / still has a crush on, maybe not, who calls her and asks her if she has ever heard of a man named Jerry. And Jenny is kind of like, I think I do, but I'm not sure why you're asking me about this man. Like, what is it about him that you're calling me for? And Liam reveals that Jerry has died, and apparently his death and more suspicious deaths have been connected to Max / Agnes / Susie's Freedom Cult. More specifically, it is likely that Jerry actually died during his initiation. So if you remember Mia from a couple videos ago, she's kind of like Max's right-hand girl or whatever in this cult. Jenny actually approaches Mia and she asks Mia about Jerry. Mia is very staunch in saying that she's like, there's no Jerry here, no Jerry exists, there was never a Jerry here, you know? And so at this point, it's like, as a reader, you kind of have to just not believe these people anymore, because turns out their leader was so much of a liar. So at this point in the story, Max is very sick. We already know that she was dying from ovarian cancer, but now she's actually in hospice. So she is really at the end of her days. And Jenny goes and visits Max in hospice, and it doesn't actually say whether she was just genuinely sad that she was in hospice or if she was just really just going there to figure out more information. However, she goes and she visits her in hospice. Jenny asks Max why did Mia lie to her about Jerry. So Jenny is not believing Mia at all, and so she asks Max, why did she lie? And Max is saying, you know, Mia is probably just trying to cover for the cult. She had no ill intentions, but it's as if she's been so conditioned to just lie in order to benefit the cult, and so that the cult won't be uncovered, which is like, you know, Max continuously says like, oh, it's not a cult, it's not a cult. But it's like, if it wasn't something negative, why would your members feel the need to lie about certain things to cover for the cult or cover for them? It just doesn't make sense. So obviously, like, even if you're saying you're not a cult, you're clearly still not evoking positivity. Like, nothing good is coming out of your organization, if that's what you want to call it. Anyways, Max does reveal that Jerry did in fact pass away during an initiation. So Jenny takes this information and she kind of sits on it for a little bit. It's not clear how long, but it's a couple of days. And then at some point she goes back home and she sees Hannah sitting there as if she had fallen, but it looked like she was sitting there intentionally. And when she walks through the door, when Jenny walks through the door, Hannah looks up at her and she says, "Hi, Agnes," or she refers to her as Agnes. And Jenny takes this to mean that more than likely Mia has passed away and the new Agnes person is now her. So she is now the new leader. So obviously this means that Jenny was right and Hannah had been a part of Freedom Cult all along. And funny enough, Max was just telling Jenny a short while ago how, oh, Mia was just lying to protect the cult, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, but you lied about Hannah being a part of the cult. So especially like on your dying bed, you could have just said, oh, by the way, Hannah was in the cult. Like, it doesn't matter at this point. And like, but she just never says that. It's just funny how she's saying other people were lying, but she's also lying. Like, she's the biggest liar there is. So after this, she goes with Hannah to one of the Freedom Cult properties or headquarters. And she goes there to meet a group of people called the Six because she is the new leader. And there she watches a video that Max/Agnes left her, telling her about all the things that go on in the cult, what she's supposed to do, what she's not supposed to do, the ins and outs of it, and all of the legalities. And after she is told this, Hannah then takes her down to this underground bunker of sorts, and there she finds out a whole lot of stuff she really didn't want to find out. So down there she sees a man locked in a chamber and he's saying, "Help me, help me." And it looks like he's been down there for quite some time. He's not really been being taken care of. Obviously he's locked up. And we find out that this is actually Max's stepfather. So at some point she ran away from him, and then she found him, and then she locked him up so that she could treat him badly. Now, we never actually know what Max's stepfather did to her, but what we do know throughout the book is that there are people being punished for really bad things that they did to other people. It's not clear whether any of these people that were being punished really didn't do anything too crazy. But as far as we know, a lot of the people who were being punished were people who did some really bad things. And so I can only assume that Max's stepfather did do some really bad things. And the reason that we know that it was Max's stepfather down there in the first place is because behind him is like words written in, I think it said it was red, in big letters behind him it says the stepfather. Afterwards, she's taken out of the dungeon and she is shown this CCTV footage of Liam with another woman, possibly like another detective or a cop, outside of Jenny's place of residence. And this is the day after Jenny reported that she saw Susie on the train. And it is revealed that the entire time Liam was just playing her. He never believed Jenny at all. He never believed anything she said. He always suspected her the whole time, from him like kissing her, I guess, and then also him like asking her to go to breakfast and all of the other stuff. He was just trying to get closer to her to find out more information, but he never actually wanted to befriend her or anything of the sort. He was just trying to get more information. And now obviously Jenny feels very foolish, but she's also very upset. But then she's like, well, of course, what did I expect? He was a detective. So after a week of being Agnes, she finds out a couple of things. She finds out that there were actually a bunch of deaths that are linked to Freedom Cult. Not only are they linked, it is confirmed. So the people in the cult have confirmed to her that there have been at least 50 people who have died from being initiated into this cult, because remember, they do these crazy dares and these really dangerous things, and so about 50 people have died upon initiation. And not only that, she learns that there have been journalists investigating Freedom Cult. They just haven't been able to get enough information in order to expose them. So she leaves Freedom Cult, and not leaves the cult for good, not at this point, but she goes to visit Susie's mother, Fiona. And when she sees Susie's mother, her mother is elated to see her, but she's also like, oh, like, I haven't seen you in a while. She asks her mother if she can go up to see Susie's room, and when she comes back down, Fiona is like, okay, I know that there is something that you need to be telling me. What is it? And then Jenny tells her that your daughter has been dead for 16 years. And we get no more information about this, which really annoyed me, because it's like, does Fiona have questions like, what happened after that? I know you ain't just tell her like, oh, your daughter been dead for 16 years. Like, she has to be like, how do you know this? Why do you know this? Have you been keeping me from this all this time? Like, were you a part of it? And it's just like, oh, no, we gonna skip on to the next chapter. She then writes a letter to Liam telling him that she never trusted him and that he's a liar, and she also sends him the USB recording of Max admitting to Susie's murder. Back at the compound, she uses a phone to call her dad, which they allowed her to keep a phone, and it's like, even she is befuddled by this, because she's like, I don't know why they allow me to keep this phone. There's so much that they allow at this compound, and they just try to be under wraps. It just doesn't make any sense. And after the phone call, she tells the bodyguard at the compound that she wants to leave and take the car. So now she's trying to escape, and she's like, but I don't want anyone following me. I'm gonna take the car and I'm gonna go. So she's stupid because they gonna follow her, but she takes the car. She meets up with Harry, and at some point in the car, they realize that the bodyguard is actually following her. His name is George. And so Harry speeds off, and they turn into a random farmhouse, and he tells her to get out and run, and she gets out and she runs, and she never looks back. Apparently, she spent months/years hopping from place to place to place until she finally settles in Australia. And she says that she has a nice home there. She no longer really has to look over her shoulder, but she still cries, wondering what happened to Harry. Until one day she's watching the news and she sees that Freedom Cult has been exposed and Harry is being interviewed, but apparently George did catch up to him, and they had been holding Harry hostage for some time. It's unclear for how long of a time, but he was being held hostage. And the book ends with several members of the cult being arrested and Freedom Cult being completely dismantled, and Jenny continuing to live her life happily and peacefully in her home in Australia. So yeah, that is the end. And let me tell you, the end of this book was so anticlimactic. It made me so angry. So quickly, I'm just gonna run through my official feelings for this book. So firstly, I did like when it started that it had short chapters, but then we reached a certain point and I'm just like, there ain't no reason for this book to have 83 chapters. We reached chapter 50 something and it was like, okay, this story needs to end, but it doesn't. Also, the thing with the cult, right? I don't necessarily like cults in stories anyways, but it was done well, aside from the fact that we have no explanation as to how the cult was started. We know that Max ran away, stole Susie's identity, and she almost took on Susie's personality of manipulation to form a cult, but we have no idea like what she said to these people, why these people looked up to her, how it formed, how she got these properties to have this cult. We have absolutely no clue. Furthermore, there should have been something around in the news that a person named Susie was missing, right? And she was taking on this girl's identity, but somehow none of these people knew. And that to me was also just a little bit strange. Another thing, it was clear, that was not clear, I should say, is whether or not Max was always this manipulative, or whether she decided to become manipulative, or maybe it was like a subconscious. Is like, okay, well, Jenny and Susie are best friends, and Susie is very manipulative, and I see how Jenny follows her, so maybe I should take on that personification, and maybe that will let people like follow me, and maybe that will attract Jenny to me, even though I left her and murdered her best friend. Like, but I feel like that has some part to do with it. But I also feel on the flip side, well, not necessarily on the flip side, but I also feel that she did have a little bit of that in her already. I mean, like, if she was already able to commit murder, she had some type of evil in her from the beginning anyways. I felt like the reveal of who Susie / Max / Agnes really wasn't that crazy. It wasn't that interesting. I feel like that part was very anticlimactic. Like, I feel like we built up to it, and when we got there, it was just like, oh, okay. Even the reveal that Susie was actually Max wasn't, like, I wouldn't say I was expecting it, but I also will say that it wasn't that intriguing, although I did like the explanation of what actually happened that night. I did like that explanation. So yeah, it's strange because while I feel like the book itself was well written, I feel like certain plot lines were just left, were just unsolved. I kind of wanted to know what those true crime people who were really into this case thought about it, like towards the end of the story, like when everything was revealed. I kind of really wanted to know that. I'm gonna give this book a 3.5 out of 5 because I didn't think it was terrible. I did enjoy reading it and reviewing it. So yeah, 3.5 out of 5. I would recommend it because I would say, hey, give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it for yourself, you know? But yeah, guys, that's the end of the review for The Woman Coach D. What did you think about it if you read it, and what did you think about the plot? Tell me in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified about when I post. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye.